Hey everybody, welcome back to another afternoon in the Sledgehammer Performance Garage. So today we're going to be looking at what my process looks like for detailing the interior of my C7 Corvette. This is not designed to be a full detail, but rather what I try to do on a bi-weekly basis in terms of maintenance on the interior. And I can usually get this done with just a couple of products. So the first thing we're going to look at is P&S Express Interior Cleaner. Now this is really nice stuff, and I use this in conjunction with a very soft detailing brush, and I will put the link to these two things in the description below. But these two products give me a really good way to get a deep clean on the interior. Now another tool that I like to use in conjunction with this is this small detailing scrub. So this has a really nice soft surface to it, and it's not going to scratch anything on your interior, which is nice. Typically what I do with this is I will spray the product on this and then go ahead and wipe it over the seat cover, the dash, whatever I want to be able to cover in a short period of time, because this covers a lot of surface area. It's a really nice brush. And again, I'll link this below. After I get a nice brushed clean on the interior, I do like to use this P&S Swift Clean and Shine. This isn't necessary, and this is really good for just day-to-day maintenance when you want to do a quick cleanup. But I like to use this because it does put a little bit of a shine. If you just use the interior cleaner alone, it's going to leave kind of a dull matte finish. Some of you may like that, some of you may not. So that's all I really need to use to detail the interior of my C7, because it's usually in pretty good shape anyway. So let's go over and get inside the car and get started on this process, and it'll help illustrate what I try to do on a bi-weekly basis just to make sure that my car is as clean as it can be. So we're going to get a start on this. So I'm going to first illustrate how I go about cleaning the door panel. Pretty straightforward. So I like to give it a liberal dose of this Express Interior Cleaner just to make sure I'm getting it everywhere. Because as you agitate it with this fine detail brush, you'll get a nice foaming action. It really lets you know that you're hitting that surface pretty thoroughly. So we'll give it a spray down. You end up going through a lot of this stuff, so I have to keep it on hand because I like to keep all my vehicles in great condition. So you can see I've got a nice coating on that. And so I'm just going to agitate it really quickly with this detail brush. And as you can see, I'm getting that light foam that I expect. Now the return on investment for my time on this isn't going to be as worth it as some other cars, because I am not really cleaning it all that much, because this is usually in pristine shape, but it's still satisfying. It's nice to know that the interior of my C7 is as clean as it can be. Okay, so we've got it all agitated, so I'm just going to take a microfiber towel. I'm going to wipe down all these surfaces, and then we'll just go over it with a quick coat of that clean and shine that I was talking about earlier. Okay, we've let that dry a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and get ready to coat it with my P&S Swift Clean and Shine. And again, this is going to put just a nice mild shine on this door panel, which is what I'm looking for. I don't like it to look like a dull matte finish. Just a little bit of sheen is nice. So I'll go ahead and give a few sprays of this on the entire panel. So it's fine to use the same microfiber towel that I had initially used to clean the door panel. So I'm going to go ahead and just wipe this down. And you'll see that it's taking on more of a sheen, which I really like. The nice thing about this stuff is that it doesn't leave like a greasy feeling, and once it dries, it's going to dry nice and even, so you're not going to have a real splotchy surface as long as you go over it properly with this microfiber towel. Okay, and that's the extent of it. All I have to do then is kind of clean up a little bit. I've got some product remnants on my window, so I'll have to go over this with invisible glass like I usually use, but not really a big deal. I think it looks great. So the next step then is to go into the interior of the car and see how I handle the dashboard and all the surfaces there. It's really not that much different than what I just did to this door panel. It's just that I'm a little bit more careful, and I tend to spray less product because I don't want it to seep into the electronics or things like that. So again, the final result looks pretty good, so let's move on to the interior. Okay, so now it's time to address the driver's side seat. So in order to do this, what I end up using is this little guy. It's got that nice soft surface, so you're not going to be worried about scratching your leather surfaces. And typically what I do is I like to spray it on the pad itself rather than on the surface, because I don't like it going into this perforated leather. So I'll set my detail brush in the seat, since I do like to use that as well. Spray the product pretty liberally on the pad, as I've just done. And then as you can see, this is a really cool tool because you can cover a lot of surface area with this. Get that nice sudsing action going. Then I'll just use this brush to kind of get into the finer areas that my sponge does not get to. And I'll use it for these side surfaces as well. Okay, set those down, grab the same microfiber I've been using, and just wipe that seat down pretty thoroughly. And if your seat was in pretty bad shape, I do recommend that you vacuum your interior first, just to make sure that you can use that to get into all these crevices where crumbs and things like to hide. I know we don't like to eat in our Corvettes, but sometimes you don't have the luxury of avoiding that. So the next step then is to move up to the back surface here. And again, I'm not going to try and spray it in the perforated portion of this. So I'll spray it on my applicator and then just give it a good scrub. And it's nice to see that foam up a little bit like it is, because then you know it's actually digging into that leather and pulling out any contaminants. I know it sounds kind of gross, but these things like to soak up your skin oils and things and sweat, and just nice to give this a good clean and get that all washed off. Now you will notice, it's hard to see on camera, but this does tend to shed a little bit, so you'll see some fibers sitting on your leather, but it's pretty easy to wipe that up with your microfiber, and they tend to stick to the microfiber, so not much of a concern. Next thing is going to be our Swift Clean and Shine. So again, I like to kind of avoid getting it on the perforated areas. Sometimes you can't really avoid it, but we're going to wipe this up pretty quickly with our microfiber. So. And this is where this product really starts to shine, no pun intended, simply because it's putting that just light sheen on this surface that I'm really looking for. Interior of the car now. I've completed the seats on both sides of the car and both door panels because I didn't want to waste your time with watching me do the exact same thing on the other door. So we're going to look at how I get a start on cleaning the interior of this. So the first thing I like to do is I'll take my Express Interior Cleaner, the one that foams up really nice, and I'm going to start with the steering wheel. What I like to do with this is spray it directly into my brush. Just get a little bit of product in there, and then I'll just go ahead and start agitating the surface here. You'll see that just gives a really nice foaming action so you can see where you've been, and it gives you a sense that you're doing good. Don't want to soak those buttons, but I'll get back and start cleaning the top of my steering wheel here. Let that stuff soak in a little bit to do its job. Being real careful around my decal there because I don't really need to get that wet with cleaner. Then I'll just take my microfiber and wipe it down, making sure I get everywhere. Being real careful around my decal. I'm trying to get in every nook and cranny on this thing to make sure I get all the product out and get everything wiped down. Okay, get all around the steering column. Okay, so that's all clean. I'll get into my dash area here with the same product. And I am going to end up getting a little bit of this spray on the display up here, but I'll go ahead and clean that off with some invisible glass a little bit later. I'm going to move up to my dash pad now. This is a 1LT, so this is not leather. It's that nice GM vinyl. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to spray it on my cloth first. That way I don't have to worry about overspray on that window, even though I'm probably going to clean it anyway with some invisible glass. So spray it on my towel here first. Trying to get as much coverage as I can here. Okay, so we're all done with that part. So the next step then, on a different surface of my microfiber that I've been using, I'm going to go ahead and spray my Swift detailer so I can get that real mild sheen that I'm looking for. And you can see it starts off looking like it's going to be like an Armor All type finish, but once it dries, it just evens out and you get that nice slight sheen. Let's go up my dash surface here. And even though my sense of smell is not that great, it's gotten worse as I've gotten older. This does smell really nice. And if I can smell it, that means that it's going to smell really good to what I'll call a normal person. Okay, we're going to start in the center console next. I'm back with my Express interior cleaner. Spray down the surface a little bit. Trying not to soak it. And I'll get my to clean this screen with wipes that you would normally use for like LCD monitors, just so that I know that it's not going to be scratched. I don't like to use paper towels or anything like that on this type of a surface. It'll all even out and flatten out and look mint. Okay, so we'll let this flatten out. And generally what I like to do is when I'm cleaning my screen with the LCD wipe, I'll go down and wipe down this area too, because you'll see a little cloudy film on it. And I don't necessarily like that. So I usually wipe this down, and I'll wipe out these buttons since it's a nice smooth plastic surface. And then I'll also come up here and wipe down my dashboard with those same LCD wipes. Basically anywhere that I see any cloudiness at all, I'll go over it with something like that just to make sure that I don't see that. Same thing with the surface over here and then over on the passenger side. So any shiny surface I like to go over with that LCD cleaning cloth just so that it looks nice. Otherwise it kind of presents itself as being a sloppy detail job, and I don't like that. That's not my signature. A really low pile microfiber that's designed for glass, and I'll use my invisible glass. So I'll give that surface just a quick shot, and I don't want to let it run down into the innards of my display, even though it's not really going to cause any damage necessarily. Wipe down my button surfaces. And as you can see, this low pile microfiber does a really nice job of getting things clean. There's just a few places to touch up. And some of this is just glare from the lighting in the garage too. So I'll do the same thing on the dash. Give it a quick spritz here, not too much. And then just give it a quick wipe down. Making sure I get all the edges, because that's one thing that's annoying to me is when you wipe down glass or any type of plastic around the edges, if there's any visible dirt there, you can really see it if the rest of that surface is super clean. Okay, so we've wiped everything down, and I've gone over my shiny surfaces with invisible glass and a low profile. Okay, so we're done wiping down the shiny plastic interior parts like the screen, the binnacle, and this area down here. I really like using this low pile microfiber cloth and the invisible glass or an LCD screen cleaner wipe, but it just puts the finishing touches on things. Like before, this was a little bit cloudy, and now it's just crystal clear with a nice shine to it. Screen looks nice, the binnacle's fine, and my other shiny plastic interior pieces are just great. So this is an overall look at what things ended up like, and this is what I usually end up with when I'm doing just a maintenance detail. This is not considered to be a full top to bottom detail of the interior. I usually only do that once a year in the spring. So that concludes the maintenance detail of my C7 Corvette. I was able to accomplish this using just two products from P&S. The first one is the Swift Interior Detailer, and the second is right here, Express Interior Cleaner. Both of these do a great job. Start with this, touch it up with this, done. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. Subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for more how-to videos featuring my C7 Corvette Stingray on the Sledgehammer Performance channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.